Hello and welcome back to another episode of Zero BS Estate Agency, where we strip back the fluff and get real about what it takes to win in this business. Today I've got a guest who knows more about winning and losing than most people on earth. Olympic silver medallist, mindset mentor and now part of the team at Real Agency and EXP, Roger Black. We talk about what it really takes, like standing on the Olympic start line next to Michael Johnson, how to push through injury, self-doubt and setbacks, and what agents need to understand if they're ever going to make the leap into self-employment. Now, if you've been flirting with the idea of breaking free and building your own business, this episode might just give you the mindset shift you need. Let's get into it.
Gets them away first time, and the flashbulbs going all over the stadium. Black is chasing Johnson, and he's closing slightly, but Johnson responds. Johnson going away down the back straight. Ewan Thomas with a big run on the outside, also going by Ismail. On the inside, Harrison, but Johnson, Black, Thomas, and somebody's pulled out. Looks like Ismail. Here comes Johnson now, and Black's got an awful lot to do to get in the medals. Ewan Thomas on the near side, and it's Johnson. Black now goes into second place. Harrison on the inside, and on the near side, Thomas. Johnson away and clear. Black in second place takes the silver, and Kaboga takes the bronze. The time, 43.49. A new Olympic record. And for Roger Black, Olympic silver. He ran the perfect race. He wasn't panicked by Michael Johnson, who was in the lane outside him. Black ran his own race.
You've got Johnson in the outside lane. You've got the entire world looking at you, not fully recognizing all the training, the preparation and everything that's gone into that. This is your moment. What is going through your mind?
Well, let me just add to what you were saying. I've got Michael Johnson in the lane outside me in gold spikes. So that's what's funny. And I think the whole world were looking at him, not me, because they thought he was going to break the world record. What was going through my mind? I know what it's like to go to Olympic Games and not be ready, carrying an injury, haven't quite, and, the problem with athletics or any sport, but particularly athletics, especially in an Olympic final, is you can't hide and you can't fake it, because no one cares, or, it's racing. Okay. So I've been to Olympics in Barcelona and didn't run well, didn't make the final. And my mind was all over the place. Oh, my leg hurts and this, that, and the other. 4 years later in Atlanta, the answer to your question is when I stood behind the line, I was nervous because everyone's nervous, but I was in, they call it in the zone, but it was almost in a state of peace. It was almost in a state of, I've done everything I could possibly have done to get here, mentally and physically. I've got to the final because the hard bit's getting to the final, actually. Not everyone makes the final. And it was almost handing over. And so when it came to Michael Johnson in the lane outside me, he didn't exist. At that level against the best in the world, you learn that you can only, what we would call, run your perfect race. You really can't affect. In a 400 meters, you've got people in lanes, they're not coming into your lane, they're in lanes outside you. So you will all influence each other just by being there, but you can't actually affect another athlete. The only person you can affect is yourself. So I felt supremely confident. I didn't think at all about Michael Johnson. I didn't think at all about anybody else in the race. I was completely focused on myself and what I had to do. And I'd rehearsed it hundreds, if not thousands of times. And the gun goes and you just do it. And the hardest thing is to actually stick to your plan in the Olympic final, because it's the Olympic final. But fortunately for me, I had a plan. I'd run that way all season and I crossed the line second, which was fine. That was, for me, that was a complete success because I could easily not have medaled. I could easily not have been there. And Michael Johnson, people go on about Michael's coming second to Michael Johnson. He was just a different, he was working on a very different level. A few days later, he went on to break the world record in the 200 meters. He was an absolute superstar. He was just in a different class to the rest of us. So, people. One of the things I learned from that, it's interesting talking about it. You asked me about Michael Johnson. I mean, he's very famous, and he won, and I came second. And what we tend to do in life is we look at all the people ahead of us. But there are times when sometimes you need to remind yourself to look behind you. And in the Olympic Games, there were 6 other athletes behind me and 1 guy ahead of me. And these 6 behind me could all have, not all of them, but most of them on their day could have got one of those medals. So it was absolutely, the highlight of my career to stand on the Olympic rostrum. I could easily not have been there. I've been injured the year before. I've been missed more years than I had healthy. But everything just clicked in 1996. I'd had an operation in October of 1995 on my knee, but everything clicked. And when that happens, whether it's in business, whether it's in sport, the word that comes to mind is momentum. There was this forward momentum. Everything I did my body was okay. Everything I felt confident. I was in control of my destiny. And fortunately for me, it happened in an Olympic year towards the end of my career.
And honestly, absolutely amazing. And even though I've watched the same clip back, even though I watched all the way back in 96, I still get goosebumps over that event and seeing, I'm going to say you loosely in the sense of British athlete.
Yeah.
So much goes into that one race though, right? It's not like you just turn up on the sideline, you're talented and you can just turn up. There's a lot more that goes into it, truly.
Well, first you've got to get into the team, which wasn't easy in Britain in 1996. We had a whole host of athletes who on their day were capable of running as fast as me. So 1, you've got to get into the team. And then 2, you've got to get to the Olympics. You've got to get through the rounds comfortably. And then you've got to deliver in the Olympic final. And you've got to be mentally and physically able to cope with the pressure of the Olympic Games, because the challenge we all had as athletes was the Olympic Games is once every 4 years. You've got other sports like tennis and football and golf. There are 4 majors a year in tennis and golf. You mess up Wimbledon this year, well, that's okay. You come back and do it. Or even better than that, I'll go and do I'll do the US Open or whatever. Do you know what I mean? There's always something that can get you back in at the top. But in athletics, everybody knows that ultimately it's about the Olympic Games. You'll have world championships in between. You'll have European championships, whatever. You'd swap them all for the Olympic medal because of the history. You go down in history. I was really aware of the history. I knew that the last man to stand on the Olympic rostrum with a British vest on in the 400 meters was back in the days of sort of chariots of fire, back in the 20s. Wow. So Eric Liddell won it, and then a guy called Godfrey Brown got a bronze 4 years later. And then you got the gap to me, 1996. That was 70 years, okay? And then it took another nearly 30 years for that to happen again last year in Paris at the Olympic Games, when Matthew Hudson-Smith came second in the 400 meters, and so closely, it was an amazing race by the American. But there's only 2 of us alive who have done it. And I was really aware of, and I think that just shows you how hard it is. That
level of competition. And look, that leads us nicely on to sort of the next question, because of course you're heavily involved with EXP. And of course I know you through Real Agency in the sense that I'm like, wow, I've been on your masterminds. I'm listening to you, Steve talk, and I'm like, this is gold, right? This is absolute gold. Oh. And so I'm obviously very grateful for you doing this right now, because of course I wanted to pick your brains and try and hopefully help some agents out there that may need to hear what you've said in a mastermind. And so with so many agents and entrepreneurs that flirt with the potential of becoming maybe a self-employed agent, but don't completely commit to it, or certainly don't fully commit to it, but it's a nice idea, but they really want to, but something's stopping them. What advice would you give someone who keeps holding back because of maybe the fear that they won't win? Because you've been at the pinnacle of a sport where either you win or you come second.
Or you come third, or you come fourth. But I mean, there are no guarantees. No one has a right to win, to come first. So the first thing I would say is define what winning is for you, and own that. What is success for you? because that's different for different agents. So for some agents, I want to build a huge business and I want to sell my business for millions of pounds. For some agents, I want to work individually and I want to get my time back. I want to see my kids when I can. I want to control my time. Okay, I'm not going to sell as many houses, and I've got to go out there and find those houses because I'm not going to work in an office where they've been given to me. But I'm in control of my destiny and I can live the life that I want. The first thing is, what is the life you want? Because it's different for different people. So I think the starting point for any athlete is all you really can do is feel a sense of fulfillment that you fulfilled your potential and you've been successful. For me, that was without a shadow of a doubt, that was standing on the Olympic rostrum in 1996. So the starting point is that. And then you have to have that dream, whatever that may be, and then you need to park it and you need to come right back to the moment. As an athlete, the bottom line is all you see on telly is us running in the Olympic final. What you don't see are the hours and hours and hours of training, wind come rain, whatever, the injuries, the setbacks, all that stuff that you have to do, you have to go through, knowing that there are no guarantees. Michael Johnson got food poisoning the day before the Olympics in Barcelona in 1992. People forget that. He would have been Olympic champion 4 years earlier. He didn't even compete. Okay, so anything can happen, but you have to forget that as well. So, control the controllables, but it all starts with that dream, because that's the thing that gets you out of bed. That's the thing that gets you through the injuries. That's the thing. But really understanding that. And then the second part, I think, to me was, know thyself. And I think I didn't do athletics as a kid at school. I played rugby, football and cricket. And the reason I didn't, two reasons. I have had a heart problem, which might have been a factor, but even put that to one side, I didn't do athletics. I did other sports. So it wasn't that. I did it quite simply because I didn't see athletics as a team sport. And I love being part of a team. I love being part of a team. So it was why I love being with you guys at Real Agency. And I love it. I genuinely love it. We were in a room the other day, weren't we? You sit around and there's nothing better because stuff happens. And it wasn't until I met my training partner, Chris Akabusi, two guys who came from very different worlds that were brought together with one shared vision of winning Olympic medals, that I realized that I needed him, my coaches, my other training partners to take each other to places that we couldn't have gone individually. Not for them to take me, but for me, Chris will always say, I took him and he took me. We take each other to places that we couldn't have done if we just carried on doing it individually. So regarding EXP, I met Adam Day at EXP because I gave a speech to him on a little roadshow sort of 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And the reason I'd never heard of EXP. What's EXP? And the reason that I was so pleased to be invited by Adam, along with Steve Backley and myself, my business partner, to get involved, was that I just believe that the mindset of someone like you, the individual agent, the people that want to take that step away from the sort of perceived security of employment and on the high street, and they've got this itch they want to scratch. I want to do it myself. I can do it better, and I want to control my life. I want to build a business on my own. That is no different to the talent. There are many talented athletes, right? And but talent's not enough. And I felt when I was delivering my speech, I could resonate. You could just see that it was landing with those people who were going, okay. And what I realized was that mindset is so important in the sporting journey, but it's also important in the estate agency journey. And if you have the right mindset with the right skill set, then the chances are you're going to be successful. And the mindset piece is the piece that myself and Steve Backley do just by sharing stories. We're not estate agents. But you don't want us to be estate agents. You're all estate agents. You don't want to hear estate agents, right? Maybe on some specifics, because I know you love what we do. Our job is to tell the stories and to share our experiences from a mindset point, not physical, from a mindset point of view in sport. And it's not for us to make the translation to you guys and to other agents. It's for you to take what you want from it, because different people take different things. And the other part of the journey was I really fundamentally believe in experience, is that if you look for everything, you hear nothing. But if you're open-minded and something lands, whatever it may be, you whether it's you hear a speaker and they say something and you go, damn, I wish you hadn't said that, or that's interesting. That's our job. Our job is to share the stories and experiences from a high-performance world of sport and to help people make that connection and translate it into a estate agency. And as you know as well as anyone, John, mindset is so important, because if you haven't got the right mindset, you're just going to give up. And there are no guarantees. I'll just tell you. I'll tell you a little story, actually, if you don't mind. In my deepest, darkest moment, which would be around one of my darkest moments would be around 1989. I'd broken my foot. I was coming back from a broken foot. Chances are you're not going to come back from that. I was in California, sort of come off crutches, and couldn't do much. I was with my training group, which was Chris Akabusi, a few others, and Daley Thompson, one of the greatest athletes of all time. And Daley was driving me up Pacific Coast Highway from his house to the track. And I was really low. And I remember saying to him, this is too hard. I don't know if I can do this. I could have been a doctor. I studied medicine. I could have gone back to university. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He doesn't remember it, by the way. And he changed the way I thought. He said, Rog, if this was easy, everyone would be doing it. And I think if there are any people listening who are, in the employed model, sitting there doing a good job, and it's fine, no one's criticizing that, but they again find themselves daydreaming or just going, damn, I want to have a go at doing it myself. The starting point is, don't expect it to be easy, because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But the big part of what we're doing with Real Agency is we're trying to make it a little bit easier by providing a collaborative team that you can tap into, rather than think you do it on your own. All the experts, including yourself, including Adam Mackay, Jamie Fisher, and the list will go on and on and on as people join the group. All Steve and I do is the easy bit, the mindset piece. You guys are sharing knowledge. We've got Chris, who does all the social media experts. It's there to say to people, come and be part of a tribe. And I found my tribe in athletics. And once I found my tribe, which was Chris Akabusi, Daley Thompson, and many others, once I found my tribe, I was able to thrive. So I hope that makes sense. But I think that's where the parallels are. It's not one or two things. It's lots of things. But I think it is, being part of a tribe that are there to support you and help you and make you see that if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. Adam Mackay is the first ever independent estate agent, running a business, to take the step over a year ago to bring his whole business and partner it with EXP. He will always be the first person that did it. Always. Okay. And now people will do it, and, but you just imagine that, he took the first step, and now others will follow him and listen to him. That's an amazing place to be. And that's completely different to 3 years ago, where you couldn't even bring your agency into it. What we're trying to do at Real Agency is say, come to us first. You don't have to join XP. Come to us first. Let's be part of the team. Golf days, mind setting sessions with me and Steve, sessions with you, stuff, whatever that may be. And that'll be, and just be around it, because often that is all it takes for people to take the step.
Yeah. And one of the best thing that landed with me at the recent mastermind that you said was learning to live in or with uncertainty.
Yeah.
And that what I really liked about that was because no one is saying that running your own agency is easy if you run your own agency on the high street, right? No one's saying that. But you guys, including Adam, when I was speaking to Adam about becoming part of Real Agency, becoming part of EXP, he was also, John, this isn't going to be like you're just going to be just floating off into the sunset and earning your millions. No, that's not the case. We're all having to put an extreme level of work in to make sure that it actually works. And that's what I loved. And that was part of me thinking, well, do you know what? That's real. That is absolutely real. That's not like telling me that, everything's going to be surrounded in flowers and smelling nice.
Absolutely. No. Well, and it shouldn't be. The point is, it shouldn't be. And if people think it's going to be, they're in for a surprise. If you go into it going, this isn't going to be easy, but there is a system. There are people that have gone before me. So success leaves clues. I might as well go and ask them, which is why we created Real Agency, because you're part of Real Agency. Go on then, ask us, or ask you guys, Adam, the estate agents. But it's it's so similar to being an athlete, because although the odds are, I would say the odds of you actually winning in a state agency are far greater than the odds on someone actually winning an Olympic medal. I have to say that. So, it ain't quite the same.
Yeah, but I see. I love the fact that you are, and Steve too, are so humble in the sense that you've achieved great things, but still have that humility within that to share.
John, you know why that is, though?
Go on.
Do you know why that is? And you'll get to know over the years. You'll get to know us, and you'll hear our stories. You haven't actually seen our full. Yeah. There's a reason for that. It was so hard. Yeah, I can't. It's so easy to stand on a stage and tell people your story and get your medals out because you've only got 45 minutes. Okay. You can't ever get across to people what it's like to have a broken foot and be out of sport for 2 years, watching everyone else win the medals that you thought you were better than.
Mm.
It's not, you can't get across what it feels like to miss a whole year with glandular fever and have to go as far away from this country as possible, i.e. Australia, just to escape, because you're quite well known and people look at you, but you're not right. People start to question you. Oh, he's lost it. And it's not like a broken foot. So, Steve Backley ruptured his Achilles tendon a few months before the Olympic Games in 1996 and came back and won a silver medal. Unbelievable. Okay. So thank you very much for you to say that. It comes from a sense of, we could easily not. We're the ones who came out of this all right. We came out of it with the medals. We came out of it with a profile. We came out of it with a ability to communicate that. And now, at both pushing 60, we found a new vehicle. John, I'm not just saying this, and it's not a sell to anyone listening, because that Steve and I are all over this and we're loving it. It's just lovely. It's taken us a long time. I can stand on a stage and do my bit, and I'll always do that, but I never know where the next job is coming from. Okay. The holy grail for us was to be in an environment where you're around great people. There's already a system in place. You're not creating a new system here. It's there. Okay. And we're not selling houses, obviously. And you can see what is possible. And actually the chances of you, one, it's going to be a lot of fun, but also it's been done by so many people before. It's not like, not many people who've stood on the Olympic roster, and they're hard to find, right? But in this game, there are 750 agents in the UK now. There are 100,000 EXP agents around the world. And it's so exciting to be part of something. You're not, am I getting that? Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is, our careers were over 30 years ago. I'm 60 now. I retired at 30. I'm 59 now. I retired at 30. So I'm nearly, my life again since I won my Olympic medals. Okay. And it's taken me 30 years, and I've been fine. I've done a lot of stuff, and Steve and I have done some great stuff, but we feel that this is where we were meant to be. Everything has led to this. And the difference between this and everything else, we're part of the team. It's not just about us. Not just about us. It's about all of you. Yeah. It's great.
And no, absolutely. And I think I mentioned when we was, talking about why we joined Real Agency. And so I'd seen what Adam Day's been doing. I see what Scott Gunn's been doing. I see what other fantastic things that the other agents within EXP are doing. But my main reason for actually joining EXP was because Adam Mackay told me what his plans were.
Yeah.
Said that you and Steve were involved in that, along with other names that within the industry, that was like, holy shit.
And John, the reason for that was the awareness that we had and Adam had. And it was about 6 months after we met him, and Steve and I were part of EXP, and we were able to maybe, attract a few agents, not many. We were able to sort of be on that. We weren't selling houses, but we knew that there was one elephant in the room here. We're not estate agents. This is a big decision. You don't just join EXP because you listen to two Olympic athletes tell you how great it is. You join EXP because you think about it, and then you chat to people like you, and then you introduce them to people like Adam Day, and you sit around a table. It's a process. It's not come on, let's go for it. Okay. It's a big decision. Unless someone is so sure about who they are and what they're doing, and we're going to make it anyway, you're not really going to make that just on chatting to a couple of old Olympians who are telling you how good it is. And that's why we phoned up Adam and said to Adam, what do you think? And Adam was thinking exactly the same. Because what Adam was thinking was, I want to be the first people to build a community, a big community of people, of agents that can support. And I want to attract agents. And I believe that there's a lovely phrase that I love, which is, if you want to run fast, go alone. If you want to run far, go together. He said, I would like to build with you guys and Jamie Fisher to begin with, because I would rather build something much bigger than something small on my own. And that's a great mindset. So it's a bit of it's lovely for us because, we don't have to talk about estate agency. We talk about mindset, and that's all. That's why you joined. One of the reasons and I think if we can get that across about real agency, it's not just about estate agency. It's about personal development. It's about community. It's about collaboration. It's about support.
And that's exactly what real agency is. So looking at you and Steve, you've been there. So if we look at like the synergy from elite level athletes, that you're not just running around tracks, or you're not just throwing javelin like 1,000,000 yards.
Yeah.
There's technique.
Yeah.
Not just technique, but when it's raining, when it's cold, when it's miserable, do you actually want to get out there at silly o'clock in the morning or
yes, you do.
at night?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Exactly.
Yes, you do. And there's a simple reason why you do. Because if you don't, someone else is going to win the Olympic medal.
Correct.
I often get asked, how did you get motivated when you were injured? And I'm not saying it was easy when I was injured. I'm not going to belittle it. It was tough. It was really tough. But they might say, well, what was it? Why did you get up and train? What if it was raining? What if it was snowing? Those are the times you want to go out, because those are the times that maybe your opposition aren't doing it. I never saw this as the people. One of the other things is, it must have been a real sacrifice. What did you sacrifice to do athletics, knowing that there was no guarantee? Nothing. If you think it's a sacrifice, you shouldn't be doing it. It is a privilege to have enough talent to even have a shot at the Olympic Games. And so you don't. I'm not saying I was like, whoa, every day. I wasn't. I'm not going to be crikey. I had loads of injuries. But in my core, I knew that I was lucky to have the talent to have a go at doing this. And there was another thing that was going on in my head. I didn't want to, because one day it's over. You can't run forever. I didn't want to look back and go, you didn't go for it. If only. I didn't want to be that athlete that sits at home watching the Olympics and goes, that could have been me. If only I'd, trained a bit harder. If only I'd committed 100% rather than. And I'm not saying everyone should commit 100%. If you're not, but if you are aspiring to do something extraordinary, you've got to be all in. You can't just step in. I'll give you another example of that, John, if you want, because my great friend Chris Akabusi started off as a 400-meter runner, and then I came along as his training partner, and he had the awareness to say, and he'll always tell this, the awareness to go, damn, I'm not going to beat him. But he knew what he wanted, and he wanted an Olympic medal. So all he did was he changed his vehicle to get there. He became a hurdler, and he was terrible for the first 2 or 3 years. He was awful. I have a video of his first competitive race in America, Mount Sat relays. I remember it. He fell over on the 3rd or 4th hurdle. He went back, fell out, genuinely terrible. But he learned from the best. A guy called Edwin Moses was an amazing hurdler, and Daley Thompson as well. And he ended up with an Olympic bronze medal, and he is still the British record holder. That is one of the greatest achievements in British athletics, because very few people change their vehicle in athletics, change their event to achieve the outcome they wanted. And I think that actually translates. Find the right vehicle. His vehicle wasn't the 400 meters because he knew he wouldn't beat me or Derek Redmond or whatever. But he looked around going, actually, 400 hurdles isn't a particularly strong event. Not many people do it. If I can learn to hurdle and add my 400 meter speed, who knows? And it's still the British record holder, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And that is why Real Agency is such a good platform, because So I'll say it again, two Olympic athletes, medal winning athletes, right? At the pinnacle of sport. But then we've also got some very young, some very talented young agents within the group as well.
Wasn't that amazing the other day?
Yeah.
We sat in a room and we had two 20-year-old, two 20-year-olds, one who had never actually done a state agency, but he had something about him. So he was part, I think, of Adam's team. I'm not sure. In that room, and then across the table, guys like you with your story, but more importantly, the guy in the room who's 63 years old and sold his business last year.
Sharing wisdom.
And these young kids are going, what? And you're looking at them. Come on, let's be honest. We're all looking at them going, damn, you've got time. You've got time to make mistakes. We're getting on the bit now, you know, and they can, and if they're open-minded and they're happy to learn and be, you know, learn from all these people around the room, and the next meeting we'll have to get a bigger room. Okay. Wow. And that's what excites you and me, isn't it? It's because you know what? Because I drove away and I'm buzzing and I'm not even selling houses. You go away and you learn something that you didn't expect to learn. Imagine how those two young kids are.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. But if there was any advice though, right, regardless of if we're just looking at anyone in life, would you say your advice is something similar to, or maybe what you said earlier, which is there's the goal, you know where you want to go, then just look at the milestones that you need to hit in order to get there? Would that be the only real advice that you give?
The thing about it all, I mean, and look, I'm not sitting here, you know, being an incredibly successful business person. I've done all right, you know, but you know, I'm not sitting here, you know, I'll never be as good at anything as I was as athletics. So all I can talk about from an authority point of view is athletics. Yeah, and I think one of the hardest things to do, maybe this resonates with you. It's great chatting to you, John, because you sparked me up by things. I just thought of something I'd like to share. I'm going to tell you another story, because the hardest thing in high level sport, I believe, is to make something that was so simple when you started out, young, fit, talented, healthy. And then you get good and you get famous and there's an expectation on your shoulders. And then you start making something that was so pure and simple, really complicated. Okay. A great example is a good friend of mine called Jonathan Edwards, who broke the world record in the triple jump in 1995. He went to the Olympic Games in 1996 as the hottest favorite in town. He didn't win it. He came second. He actually didn't deliver it. Okay. The American. Jonathan, you know, everyone thought he'd be Olympic champion. And then I used to share a room with him, and he won't mind me saying this. Someone who famously, when he was breaking the world record, said, I don't know what all the fuss is about. All I do is jump into a sandpit. Which is a great line, right? You just broke the world record. I don't know what all the fuss is. Love it, okay? And then he went on this downward spiral over the next few years. And honestly, it was really hard to see, if I'm honest, you know, to see it to him, because of the pressure, the expectation on himself, the expectation, you know, every British Sports Personality of the Year, you know, it was no longer just jumping into a sandpit. He was the world record holder. And fortunately for Jonathan, he did come back and he did win the Olympic gold medal in Sydney in 2000. And thank goodness he did. So he went through that journey of all I do is jump into a sandpit to this is now this is a really complicated thing because I'm world record holder. So then, you know, just, you know, he snatched the, you know, he hung in there. And I think there's something in that, you know, the challenge is making something that was once so easy, or even not easy, something that we overcomplicate things. And you know, I guess one of the things with the group is, you know, let's just simplify this. You know, there are certain, you know, what are the fundamentals to being a good estate agent? You know, you've got to do those first. And then let's do all the other stuff and let's learn and let's make those little changes that are going to make us amazing. But you've got to come back to the fundamentals and you've got to keep it simple. And that's what the athlete has to do. You're still, and you don't see it because it's not on telly. You know, you do the training in the wind and the rain and you kind of like it and it's hard. But you've got to do the basics. So I think that would be my answer. Do the basics, have the dream, but come and bring it back to the basics.
Which is why we are so privileged to have you and Steve in the Real Agency group. Despite the fact, not necessarily agents, but you're certainly leading from the front. Roger, mate, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
My pleasure. Yeah.
I'm eternally grateful.
It's great. It's lovely. We're on the beginning of an exciting journey, John. And we're lucky to be in at the beginning of who knows where this will go. Whatever happens, it's going to be a lot of fun.
That was Roger Black, literally living proof that performance isn't just about talent, it's about mindset, momentum, and the team you surround yourself with. For me, my biggest takeaway is what Roger said. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Now, whether you're on the fence about going self-employed or you're already building your own thing, remember this. There are no guarantees, but there is a tribe that's got your back, Real Agency. Now, if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, share it with someone who's stuck, maybe, and or needs a little push. And as always, no fluff, no gimmicks, just real advice that works. I'm John Savage. Thank you very much for listening to Zero BS Estate Agency, and I'll see you on the next episode.